Let's move on now. Tensions over Ukraine are currently escalating. While diplomacy isn't totally dead, for now it is not going great. But despite the heated rhetoric, another flurry of diplomacy has now kicked off. This time between France, Germany, Russia and Ukraine. The Normandy format talks are currently underway in Paris. So what exactly are these talks all about? Well, the four-way format was conceived in July of 2014. This was when the four nations met in France's Normandy. It was to discuss the future of Ukraine following the annexation of Crimea. Since 2016, the talks were stalled until 2019. Usually it is these four countries that take part in the talks, and this time political advisors from these four nations are all in Paris. Previously, the Normandy format has sometimes been expanded, and this was to include other nations like Belarus, Italy and the United Kingdom. Currently, Ukraine sees these four-way talks as strong signals towards peace. In a tweet, Ukraine's president's chief of staff said that he hoped for a peaceful settlement, but Kiev reiterated that there was no specific agenda for today's talks. Ahead of these talks, the Kremlin had reacted to Biden's threat of sanctioning the Russian president himself. Russia's foreign minister has voiced a stern warning for the Western alliance of quote-unquote retaliatory measures. Listen in.
If a constructive response does not arrive and the West continues its aggressive course, Moscow will, as the President Vladimir Putin has said on more than one occasion, take the necessary retaliatory measures.
Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron also said that he would be directly speaking to President Putin on Friday, seeking clarification over his intentions towards Ukraine.
Je pense que c'est important de là aussi garder ces canaux de discussion. C'est ce qui d'ailleurs avait conduit la chancelière Merkel et moi-même il y a quelques mois à pousser les Européens là aussi à rouvrir une discussion structurée avec la Russie. C'est dans ce contexte et avec la même volonté, exigeante mais lucide, que j'aurai un échange vendredi matin avec le président Poutine. Ce n'est pas un déplacement, c'est un échange téléphonique.
A statement from the Elysee Palace said that President Macron remains determined to use all resources of diplomacy to preserve the stability of Europe and to show solidarity and readiness to support EU members. We earlier spoke to senior policy analyst at the European Policy Centre, Amanda Paul from Brussels. Listen into her inputs on the story.
First of all, I think it's positive that this meeting is taking place. It's not sure whether there will be really a breakthrough or a concrete outcome, but the fact that, you know, France, Germany, Ukraine and Russia are all going to be sitting together after a very long period of this format not taking place, we should have some, let's say, hope that the talks won't collapse and something will come out. But I mean, Russia and Ukraine's positions are quite far apart, frankly speaking, when it comes to the Donbass and the Minsk agreement implementation. No, the threats of sanctions aren't enough to deter Moscow. Sanctions have already been placed on Russia in the past, and that hasn't deterred them from carrying out different types of aggression. Probably the Russians have a question mark in their mind, not over US sanctions, because US sanctions have been very well explained by President Biden, even yesterday, I think, very tough sanctions. But for the Russians, the more important sanctions would be the ones that come from the European Union as well. There needs to be some unity between the EU and the US. And it's not clear at the moment if there is a big appetite or unity between EU member states to put really tough sanctions on Russia, because these sanctions could also have an economic impact on different EU member states. So the issue of sanctions at the moment is not enough to deter Russia.
WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.